Yeah. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call a meeting to order. Welcome all of you to our second virtual April 21st Town Board meeting. Remember, facts, not fear. You are not alone. And I'm here this evening with Jeff Wilson, IT Director, in my office. Everyone else is on the phone. At this point in time, I'd like to have everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please bow your heads for the invocation, please. Again, Heavenly Father, please watch over our first responders, our medical personnel, and all of our citizens during the battle against COVID-19. And let our thoughts and our actions be acceptable in your sight. Amen. Item number 4, adjustment and approval of April 21st, 2020 meeting schedule. Mayor Pro Tem.
Make a motion to adopt the April 21st, 2020 meeting agenda with no changes.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passed unanimously. We'll roll call in a minute. Next item is the public comment period. No one has signed up, so we'll open and close the public comment period and go to item number 5, which is a public hearing, relocation of abandoned graves requested by Legacy Research Associates. And that would be our John Stefano, Town Attorney. John, are you there?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you and good evening. I'm going to introduce Deborah Joy in a minute, who I believe is online, who's going to just talk a little bit about the background of this. What it is it's an abandoned grave site, family grave site, which is not uncommon in Holly Springs. I've run across 3 or 4 over the past 17 years. And this one is at, Jeff, do I have control of the slide here? Sorry. If you could just advance to the next slide, there's a map.
You're good there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a map, and hopefully this looks familiar, but the yellow portion there is the Holly Springs schools. So it's at the front of the Ramcat development on Holly Springs Road, about 600 Holly Springs Road. And it's a 2/10 of an acre site of a 4-acre tract that's owned by Mr. Jones, Rick Jones, but he is selling it off for development. And with that, unless there are any intro questions, I would open it up to Miss Joy.
Questions
Hello.
at this point?
Okay, Deborah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, this is Deborah Joy. I'm with Legacy Research Associates in Durham, and I'm representing Ramcat and helping them with this petition to relocate what appears to be about 10 abandoned graves on property that they're under contract to purchase. There were 3 tasks that were conducted to help with the due diligence efforts. One was an archaeological field investigation, which included ground penetrating radar. And that investigation found 10 anomalies that are consistent with burials. There were no inscribed headstones or footstones found during the investigation. They also did a chain of title research and found that the property has been owned by the Jones family since 1939. And when Iola Jones purchased the property from Lee Edwards, and the deed included a description that the property, the Edwards Cemetery, was on the property. As far as we can tell, the property was in the Edwards family as far back as 1860s. There are no deed book references or will book references that give us further information about it. Some genealogical research was done on the Edwards family. Unfortunately, there were no death certificates or any burial records for the family, but it does seem likely that it is the burial location for Henry Saunders Edwards and his wife Lucy. possibly some of their children, and also it could be the burial location of Henry Saunders Edwards' parents. A legal notice was put in the Raleigh News and Observer for 4 consecutive weeks, and from February 23rd to March 15th, and there was no response received.
That's great. Thank you, Deborah. And just as by way of background, general statutes require the town council's approval to abandon or to relocate an abandoned grave. And I believe the plan here is to, it has to be done through a licensed funeral director. And the plan here is to, we've worked out some cost arrangements to allow the reinterment to be reinterned into the Holly Springs Cemetery. And we will go into a cemetery in Raleigh. And Jeff, if you could just go back, I'm sorry, the slides are really out of order. Whoa, sorry. To the proposed motion. There you go. And unless there are any other questions, any questions?
Well, there is one. This is a public hearing, but I must say real quickly that no one has signed up for the public hearing, so we can open and close that. Is there any further discussion before we go to the motion from a counselor or from Deborah? I hear none.
No, none.
Okay. Would someone like to tackle the motion, please?
Sorry, I have some questions.
Okay.
Apologize, I was muted and my cursor was. So when I read through the cemetery report, it said that this was being done for a residential development at the top of the report. And I've heard that that's actually not, this is more for commercial, not residential. Is that correct?
Counselor?
So I don't have any background on what the proposed use is. The town manager may, or Ms. Joy may. I really don't know anything other than the report.
Councilwoman Kelly, I can jump in. I can't remember the exact date, but at a TRC meeting several months ago, they did present some plans that included a commercial development along Holly Springs Road there that would take up that entire area. I don't recall any residential components being a part of that it was all focused on commercial.
Okay, because that's how it starts. On the 16th, page 16, it says that there was no plans to disturb the land. So I'm wondering, why are we doing this if it says there's no plans to disturb the land?
So it's my understanding that initially that they were going to avoid the cemetery, and then when they did the investigation in December 2019, they realized how large of an area it covered and the condition of the cemetery. It would be open to vandalism and destruction, and they just were concerned that the better situation would be if it were moved. They were moved to a perpetual care cemetery.
Okay.
So there's a couple things I wanted to say. One is with regards to public hearing. I think this is an unusual time to have a public hearing, and it was challenging to go out to talk to people who might not have any email access to talk about this, because this is like a historical area. Holly Springs Road has a lot of history, and having that this land was once owned by Texana, I think that if we were in different times, there might be other people who would come to talk. So that's just my thought around having public hearings during a pandemic. The other thing is that Holly Springs Road historically has a lot of meaning for folks, especially when you look back at the history of the town. And disturbing a cemetery, to me, doesn't seem right. And having the town having to move at some expense for us. Is that what I understood? Is there some expense for the town to keep these in Holly Springs when this report said that they might not have to disturb the land? So it feels like we're making a decision on a report that's not up to date. I'm comfortable with that.
Other comments? Anyone else agree, disagree, in between? Okay. I guess hearing none, we've heard. I would suggest at this point, someone, if they want to do the motion, fine. If not, fine. What's your pleasure?
I would prefer to delay it until we can have folks that might have, think that this is historically significant, have a chance to be able to come in. That would be my preference.
Okay. That would take consensus of the council, of course.
I understood.
Anybody want to react to that, please?
I think this item was already published on our March 17th agenda. The meeting ended up getting canceled. And prior to that meeting, this notice was put in within the required time per the statutes and the N&O. So we've actually had a month since this was first advertised for public hearing. You know, I understand the circumstances around virtual meetings and public hearings. I think we need to be sensitive to some of that, but at the same time, we need to find a way for the business of the town to keep moving. I'm in a position to move forward on this tonight.
Anyone else?
I just want to add the document that is placed on here, though, if people were looking at the agenda, says that this is not going to be disturbed. And now we're just hearing that it is going to be disturbed. That does change the situation.
Okay. Any other comments before we go to the motion?
I guess I'll just ask, you know, I agree with Dan from the perspective of it's been out there, and I also understand where Christine's coming from, but what are we going to gain, or what's the expected outcome by delay?
Preserve that area if that's what, there's some history to it. And as a residential area, if that's what this report has, there's a percentage of area that needs to be for open space. You know, perhaps this could be an open space area to recognize that this is, you know, has history for a town. It's on a historical road. There's a lot of ties to the history of land being given on Holly Springs Road to different folks when the town was being formed. I'm just feeling that what is posted for folks to look at and what we're deciding is different. Now the graves are going to be disturbed. The other thing is that the cost, what is the cost? Because on that motion, it sounds like the town was going to incur some cost. Is that right, Counselor?
No, sorry. You know, the town isn't, the town won't be out of pocket any money. What we have done in the past with grave relocations is to vary our policy of one person per plot in a plot. So what we've done with Novartis, and that was the cost differential that the applicant had pointed out, that the 10 potential remain sites, grave sites, would have to be reinterred in 10 different plots in Holly Springs Cemetery. And we have done that before with grave relocation firms to allow a larger, I'm trying to be sensitive to the wording here, but you know, remains of this age are not going to be discernible. You know, so in that sense, it makes sense that you know, you can use 2 or 3 plots instead of 10 plots to just to reinter the remains.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah,
So they're being placed, they'll be placed in Holly Springs Cemetery.
That was the offer made to the applicant We're trying not to dictate where to go, but we were just the manager had instructed us to just sort of match the policy that the Raleigh Cemetery was using in this case.
I think, and I can add to that just from a historical perspective, if the remains were originally buried in Holly Springs, the thought that I had there was just to try to find a way to keep those remains in Holly Springs.
Is that what we're doing? Or are they moving to Raleigh?
I don't have a confirmation. I don't know if the town attorney does, or if the representative on the phone here for Legacy Research, I don't know if she has any confirmation on that. I'll let her answer. Ms. Joy.
Yeah, I have no confirmation on that yet.
So should we amend the motion? I'm hesitant to move forward to stipulate that they have to be buried in Holly Springs.
I'm comfortable moving forward with the amendment that they be reinterred at the Holly Springs Cemetery. I wouldn't feel comfortable moving forward knowing that these were moving outside of the town limits, but if we can get an amendment attached with that condition, then I'd be comfortable moving forward tonight.
Counselor, do we even have the authority to regulate something like that?
It's certainly suspect whether or not that you do. They're not your remains. You know, it's you know, that is it might be a bit of a reach. You know, the statute says that you just need consent to remove them. You don't need you know, there's nothing in the statute that says you have the authority to dictate where they go after once removed. I would think that the applicant would be, or the you know, the applicant would be happy to put them in to use the Holly Springs Cemetery. But I don't know that Ms. Joy has the authority from her client to sign on for that. You know, if you want to make that motion that says you're going to approve it subject to the removal, the reinterment occur in the Holly Springs Cemetery, I would think that would not, I don't think we're going to have to litigate that issue, to tell you the truth.
Right. That's my question too. All right. So
to Christine's point about cost to the town, Randy, if there is a reinterment cost difference between the preferred site and the Holly Springs Cemetery, is that something the town can split the difference on?
Well, I think I think the short answer to that question is yes. And with the thought being, my understanding is that the reinterment fees at the Oakwood Cemetery in Raleigh is roughly $38,000, or is roughly maybe half that. Is that right, John? Half of like 17 or 18,000.
That's my understanding, and the cost to ours would be 38,000.
Okay,
Because
so
of one needing 10 different plots.
right. So the interest there would be to try to essentially match what the Oakwood Cemetery, their pricing. And from our standpoint, I wouldn't see us, we're not losing money, so to speak, in this situation. We do have there is a market rate that also includes, you know, the cost of what it costs us to inter individuals. But in this particular case, I think this is something that we can manage. And two, this would not be the norm, but a unique circumstance given the historical context.
yeah. What I hear is there's comfort levels in making the motion to do those abandoned grave sites in Holly Springs. Am I correct on that?
So if we're saying we're going to do Holly Springs and we're going to potentially pay the additional cost, we're talking 10 grave sites. So we're talking 180 grand.
No, but I'll let the town attorney correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is our cost would be roughly 38,000 for all of the reinterments. Is that correct, Mr. Shavana?
I'm going to phone a friend here with Ms. Jewell. Yeah, it's my understanding the expense to route to the income to Holly Springs would be 38,000. And what is being asked as far as matching what the policy at Oakwood is, would be instead of achieving $38,000 of income from the applicant, you'd achieve about $18,000 of income.
So was it asked if they could move forward without disturbing that area? Is that on the table at all? Since that was originally what this proposal had?
I think
Well-
that's been answered, but go ahead.
The original proposal is a grave relocation request. What you see is a study that said, was an environmental study that says we're going to design around the cemetery. So the original ask to the town of Holly Springs was approval of grave relocation. The town did not get into site planning this particular site with the applicant.
Is there anyone from planning? I'm sure there is somebody on planning, but I thought there was a proposal for a office building on this corner going into Romcat there. Does that not encompass this acreage?
Anybody remember? I do not.
Well, let me see if Gina is on the.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so this project, it is part of the Ramcat Village PUD. It is designated for commercial, and they have not yet submitted any type of development plan. They have had scoping meetings, as Mr. Harrington had mentioned. They've been to our TRC, and so this is all part of the commercial component to the Ramcat Village PUD. And they are anticipating right now, in the last draft that we have seen did show an impact to the cemetery area, if that answers your question.
Thanks. Yeah, that clarifies that it's not residential.
Yep. Anything else?
I think it's a fair point to say that it's a little odd that the report does indeed say that there is no disturbance, but when you looked at this, or when I looked at this item and it's a petition for gravesite relocation, I immediately thought there was going to be disturbance here. So I didn't ever think that wasn't going to be the case. I do think the packet or the report that was submitted is contradictory to what we're evaluating. But knowing what's being asked and that the zoning is already in place for this project, I think I think disturbance could probably be expected at this point. The only other comment I'd have, Mr. Harrington, is regarding the fees. I'm just a little surprised there's no mention of the waiving of the fees or a reduction in fees as part of this motion. I don't know if that waiver is something the council would have to approve or if that's within staff's authority. But I don't know if there's clarification to that or not, but I guess more discussion on the fee piece than that was surprising.
That's a great observation, Mayor Pro Tem, and you are correct that if council wanted to include that, you would need to amend your motion to reflect that.
Anything further? With all that being said, would someone want to tackle the motion, or do we keep talking? I'm listening.
I'm uncomfortable moving forward knowing we don't know the cost and that the report said that it was not to be disturbed, and that's what people out there would have seen. I think I'm in the minority, but I just wanted to voice that.
Okay.
I think there's
Anybody
two
else?
things. We'll need to add the fee piece in here from a cost perspective. I think at the end of the day, we're just leaving money on the table versus the town incurring costs, if I understand the description correctly.
Right.
So we'll want to add in here that we're approving those fee waivers to match the Oakwood Cemetery. And then is there consensus on the second point about reinterring the remains at Holly Springs Cemetery? Do we have three that want to add that, or anyone want to add that to the motion at this point?
I'm good with that added.
That's what I thought, Aaron. Yeah.
Councilor Villotson, yes.
I'm
Okay.
good
I'll
with
go ahead
adding
and-
it as long as it's as Randy and John kind of alluded to. If we're talking something, south of $20,000 or south of $40,000. I just want to make sure it wasn't, each one of those was not a cost incurred for each gravesite.
Right. Okay, I think we're ready to make a motion one way or the other with the additions that we described. Dan, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, sure. Motion to approve gravesite relocation as proposed by Legacy Research for abandoned gravesite at 601 Holly Springs Road with the intent to reinter the remains at the Holly Springs Cemetery. And I'll also move that the town of Holly Springs match the Oakwood Cemetery in Raleigh's fee proposal to keep these remains within Holly Springs.
Okay. Is there a second?
Aaron Wolf, second.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded. Let's go through the roll call. Dr. Aaron Wolf. Yea or nay?
Oh, I get to go first this time. Aye.
Sean McGrath.
Aye.
Christine Kelly.
Nay.
Pete Villison.
Aye.
Dan Barry.
Aye.
4-1, it passes. Thank you for getting into this. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is agenda number 6. This is consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yes,
Second.
motion been made and seconded. I'll do the roll call. Dan Barry,
Aye.
Pete Villison,
Aye.
Christine Kelly,
Aye.
Sean McGrath,
Aye.
Dr. Aaron Wolf.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 13, new business. Holly Springs Road widening, PH2 to Hamel Holly Springs 19-009, change order number 2. And that would be Tim Athy in engineering. Are you there, Tim?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
We certainly can. Thank you. Good
All
seeing you.
right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Town Council. It's really good to see everybody. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe and healthy. Tonight, I want to discuss the Holly Springs Road widening Phase 2 change order number 2. This is a bond project. And Jeff, go ahead and go to the next one.
And you have control of the screen too.
I can't get it to work. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, so the purpose of this discussion is to update the council on additional design and survey work associated with this project. And we will also be requesting a budget amendment approval. The requested action is a motion to approve Kimley Horn Design Survey Contract, change order number 2, in the amount of $218,900. $218,900. Sorry. Okay, let's dive into the background of this project. The project goal has always been for Holly Springs Road to reduce the traffic congestion and to probably most importantly improve motorist and pedestrian safety. Currently, we are working on the 65% design plans, and part of those plans include the design of our 3-span bridge over Middle Creek. And we are currently still on schedule to begin construction during that mid-2021 timeframe. Okay, there are 3 contributing factors to this change order. The first one being was actually a result of our community engagement efforts. The public made it very clear to us that one of their main concerns was pedestrian safety, and really specifically school pedestrian safety near and along the Holly Ridge Middle and Elementary School campus. So we've been charged with analyzing a more enhanced pedestrian crossing system along this stretch of road. Our second contributing factor is, of course, the three-span bridge over Middle Creek. Because this structure is much larger than the original anticipated structure, as we discussed during our town council retreat, we would have to increase the funds for not only the design, but the construction of this project. And the increase in funds includes additional surveys, geotechnical investigations, additional permits. We had to revise the roadway design and, of course, the design of the structure itself. And then the third and final contributing factor is the $3.6 million LAP grant that was awarded for this project. And originally, this project was wholly funded through the town's transportation bond funds. But now that we are receiving LAP grant funds, which are federally funded, we have to adhere to the federal guidelines, which means additional studies and permits, mostly in the environmental realm.
Questions or comments of Tim at this point?
Tim, do we expect those additional studies and surveys are going to delay the project?
We don't. The design survey firm, Kimley Horn, has actually pressed on with those. They are doing those in kind, not letting essentially the approval of this contract amendment stop the progress of their work.
So the answer is no, correct, Tim?
No.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? It's a very important project, we know that. Any other comments? No? Someone want to tackle the motion?
I'll make the motion to approve Kimley Horn Design Survey Contract Change Order Number 2 in the amount of $218,900, utilizing $154,850 from project contingency account number 48-818-9182.97 and $64,050 from interfund loan 22.95.04 transfer to project account 48-818-9112.01.
Here a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, let's go to the roll call. Dan Barry,
Aye.
Pete Milson,
Aye.
Christine Kelly,
Aye.
Sean McGrath,
Aye.
Dr. Aaron Wolf.
Aye. And may I say, Pete did a wonderful job reading that motion. That was
He
great.
did.
Didn't you do that? I thought so too. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Agenda item 14, new business, 2019 street resurfacing project, Town of Holly Springs Engineering Project 19-037. And that would be Aaron Levitt, engineering, I think.
I think so. Thank you, Mayor.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Hello, hello. Tonight I'll be updating you on the street resurfacing project and the bid results.
Well, welcome to you too.
Yeah, very welcoming.
There we go.
Okay, one more slide, please. Okay, so the purpose of tonight, we talked about that. And as far as requested actions, we'll be requesting a budget amendment and approval of the contract for the street resurfacing project. Next slide, please. So a little bit on the background. So the town operates and maintains approximately 130 miles of roadway. About every 5 years, the town engages with a consultant and we complete an entire pavement survey for all those roads. Our last condition survey was completed in 2016. We'll probably be updating that in 2021. And then the analysis that comes out of that study is a street condition index ranking, and that's where each street segment in the entire town is ranked and given a score. The engineering department then takes this ranking and also considers other factors, things like safety, the traffic volume or the usage of the road, the geographic locations of the different roads around town, impact of resurfacing, and constructability issues. Once we do that, we're able to select some road segments to be resurfaced, and then we go ahead with the design plans, and those design plans are completed in-house by engineering staff. Also, the construction administration would also be completed by town staff. Next slide, please. So this is just a project overview map. It indicates we've got 15 roadway segments kind of spread across town, totaling over 10,000 feet and almost 2 miles of roads to be resurfaced with this project. We advertised the project, made a little extra effort to solicit additional bids, and we were very happy with the results. We received 7 bids, ranging from $644,000 to almost $1 million. The bids were opened virtually, and the apparent low bidder was Carolina Sunrock. That came in with a low bid of $644,000. We are expecting construction to start in spring of 2020. We have a 5-month time frame on the project. So this would leave us completion in the fall. Next slide. And so if there's any questions before we get to the suggested motion.
And go back, when's the starting time again proposed?
This spring, we're working on it right now. They should have the notice to proceed in a month.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments of Aaron?
Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
Aaron, I know that when I met with somebody, developer, they were saying that Holly Springs has the highest road standards in terms of developing subdivision, and that we ask for superior roads so they last longer. I'm surprised the Westcott Ridge Drive, are some of those, I mean, how old are some of those roads? Because some of the other ones I know have been around for a long time, but isn't that a newer subdivision? Are you surprised that that road is on that list?
You know, pavement wears according to a lot of things, not just the design thickness, but really a big impact are the vehicles on it. So you'll see major roads through subdivisions with a lot of truck traffic seem to deteriorate quicker. Also the soil and the subsurface has a lot to do with how the pavement drains, and if it drains better, it lasts longer. So it's you see indicators, but age is definitely not your only contributing factor.
Okay.
Good question, yeah. Good question. Other questions or comments?
Aaron, just real quick, I assume that most of the residents in these areas, you said spring, obviously that's where, well, I think we're pretty much at spring right now. So how's our notification going as far as this project is moving forward right now?
Yeah, so we'll have a pre-con with the contractor before we give them the freedom to kind of do the projects as they see best, you know, in the order. So as they're going to approach a project, they'll start hanging door hangers and letting folks know. And then specifically, if they're going to have an impact to, say, a driveway they might not be able to use for one day, they'll get a specific notice and a door knock. So we work.
The onus is on the contractor, not on us, to help get that word out at all. Just curious if there's any synchronization of us getting word out along with the contractors that do go about this.
Yeah, our inspectors work very closely. We do provide the door hanger to them, and we do confirm that they've spread them out, but it is on the contractor to perform those notifications. But we do track it.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
I just had one more question. Aaron, I know that we had some transportation bond projects like on Grigsby that we took off. Were those roads put into consideration when we looked at the repaving, or did we consider them another project? I don't know. Did they need any, would they now be subject to maybe be on that list for fixing?
I can go back and look at what we did consider. If I remember correctly, Grigsby was fairly low on the list, but as far as low as a low ranking, but not one of the lowest. But I can get back to you on that, the specifics and exactly where it was ranked, and I'll shoot you an email with some more information on that.
I
Yeah,
can
we just,
add,
because we had somebody speak to us about Grigsby at a public comment not too long ago. That's why I was asking.
Kendra, do you have a comment?
yeah, DOT just resurfaced Grigsby, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was a DOT road, and they said that they would resurface it one more time and then turn it over to the town.
Correct.
So it was probably not ranked initially because it was a DOT road, but it was just resurfaced. So that's probably why it's not, in a degraded column.
Okay.
Good enough? Thank you, Kendra. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, and if I could add on just real quickly, just for a second to Councilmember Kelly's comment. One thing, just for clarification, that the Grigsby project is still on your bonds list, but what council decided to do was defer consideration of that road project as well as the Estes Lane project to the second anticipated issuance for the bond projects.
Okay.
So it's still on your list, but it's just not part of this first group coming out of the gate.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Hearing none. Who would like to tackle this motion? There's two pieces.
Motion to approve use of funds from Powell Bill in the amount of $708,000 and award a 2019 street resurfacing project contract to Carolina Sunrock LLC and providing funding in the amount of $708,000, which consists of the base bid amount of $643,720.20 plus $64,279.80 in contingency.
Thank you, Sean. Do you hear a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All. Let's do this. Dan Barry,
Aye.
Pete Wilson,
Aye.
Christine Kelly,
Aye.
Sean McGrath,
Aye.
Dr. Aaron Wolf.
Aye.
Motions passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 15 is new business. This is the appointing a voting member from Holly Springs to the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And I would like to make, which I can, a nomination. I'd like to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Dan Barry. Are there other nominations? Hearing none. Can we get a motion to approve Dan Barry as the voting member? I was last year, but I think it's Dan's turn.
Motion to appoint Mayor Pro Tem Dan Barry to be the voting member from Holly Springs to the North Carolina League of Municipalities annual meeting.
Thank you. Motion been made and seconded. Dan Barry, you can vote for yourself.
Aye. Aye. Thanks.
Pete Billison,
Aye.
Christine Kelly,
Aye.
Sean McGrath,
Aye.
Dr. Aaron Wolf.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously, and congratulations, Dan.
Hey, thanks. Happy to help out. I would have loved to go to Wilmington for the conference, but I don't think it's in the cards this year. Maybe next time.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll drive you down there. Who knows? Agenda item 16, new business, the fiscal year 2019-20 nonprofit grants. I'm going to turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem Dan Barry to discuss it. Dan. We got the wrong thing again. Hang on. Yeah, keep going.
There we go. I couldn't find my unmute button. Did you pass it to me, Jeff, or do you have it back?
You have control.
You got
Okay. So thanks, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about the delay. On behalf of the grant committee, which is comprised of myself and Councilman Wolf, I'm happy to present this year's grant recommendations for the civic agency grants. Every year, the town council budgets $15,000 for grants to be distributed to local area nonprofit organizations. These applications were solicited over a 2 to 3 month period to the town clerk and consolidated by the town clerk's office. They were then reviewed for completeness and timeliness by a staff committee and then forwarded to the council's grant committee. That staff committee review included a ranking of all of these organizations and how they contribute to Holly Springs, where they're based, how much money they're requesting, and on a scale of 1 to 10, the staff committee then made that recommendation to the council grant committee. Dr. Wolf and I met last week to review, and now we'd like to present our recommendations to the full council for a decision on these awards.
There you go. Whoops.
Sorry.
No problem. Go back. There you go.
There we go. This year we had 12 applications for a total of just over $25,000. Again, we have $15,000 budgeted. So I'll go down the list here. The Fuquay Varina Food Shelf was a new application this year, one we've not seen in the past, but it is very much like the Holly Springs Food Cupboard. They supply monthly food, lunches for children that are in non-school months, and obviously it's a big need right now with the ongoing COVID situation, many children being out of school and food being an issue for a lot of local families. The grant committee, they had requested $5,000. The grant committee is recommending an award of $1,000. I think it's slightly lower than the food cupboard recommendation, which you'll see here a little lower, but they do serve Holly Springs residents and the southern part of Holly Springs and our eastern border with Fuquay. So we do have some folks that go over there, and it's a very good need, and I think one that both Dr. Wolf and I were passionate about and like to see spreading of the wealth there when it comes to food distributions, whether it's Fuquay or Holly Springs. The second one is Holly Springs Civiton. They did not apply for a grant last year, so they received no funding, but in years prior, they had consistently applied, and they used the funds for their Steppin' Out special needs dance and their Trunk or Treat event for special needs children that takes place in October. This is a small organization based in town that does a lot of good work for our special needs youth, and two really strong events here that they run on a pretty limited budget. They've requested $500, and we're pleased to recommend $500 to the Holly Springs Civiton group. The Holly Springs Community Band is a town partner. They do some shows at the Cultural Center where they do receive revenues from tickets. But in addition to that, the town council has been a longstanding supporter of the Community Band through this grant program, being able to provide funding that helps them purchase additional music and equipment. And then this year, they're also looking to start a new program to assist local bands that are just getting started or have equipment needs. They've requested $2,000, which matched the amount they received last year, and the grant committee is pleased to recommend $2,000 to the Holly Springs Community Band. Next one is the Holly Springs Food Cupboard. I think a lot of us are familiar with the great work that they do in our town. They've been a consistent partner of the town for many years and are probably, I think, in perpetuity, our largest grant recipient at the max amount through this program. But they use the dollars to purchase perishable items like milk, eggs, cheese, and produce, which helps maintain an overall nutritional value for their clients. This grant equals 2 months of perishable foods. The grant committee is pleased to recommend a grant of $2,500 this year, which is the amount that they had requested on their application. The Holly Springs High School Band is the high school club at Holly Springs High School, and the town council grant program has supported them in previous years as well. Each year they have a large equipment purchase that they like to do with this money. Last year it was for a new marimba. This year it's for a bass trombone, and I actually just saw on Twitter that our town manager, Mr. Harrington, was a trombone player, so I guess he would appreciate this. I did not know that, Randy, but
that was top secret.
I thought he was a singer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that too, but
And a dancer.
not that.
Okay.
You never cease to surprise me, so I'm sure you'll appreciate that they're going to purchase a bass trombone with this grant. They applied for $2,500, but in the spirit of making sure we could spread the money as best as we could, the grant committee decided to award them or recommend the award of $2,000, which would have matched the amount they received from us last year. The Holly Springs High School PTSA is the Parent-Teacher Association at the high school. What they do with the money is they have a teacher grant program. So as many of us know that have friends or know Wake County teachers, a lot of the supplies and different educational materials they pull into their classrooms, they purchase out of their own pockets. Our high school PTSA has this program in place that allows the teachers to apply for a grant to help them fund some of those purchases for supplies and other teaching materials in the classroom. They use our money, and then they will match every dollar of the town's money that we provide them to give out in grants. So last year we awarded them $1,500. This year they've applied for $2,500. The grant committee is recommending we maintain the same level of funding as last year at $1,500, which also means that the PTSA will match that for a total of $3,000 in their teacher grant program. The money really goes a long way, and it's available to any of the teachers at the school that have programs or supply needs that could benefit their students. The next group is Interact. This is Wake County's only shelter for domestic and sexual abuse victims. They use the contributions for general operating support to sustain life-changing programs and empower those victims to regain self-sufficiency and save lives. Last year, there were 71 victims who were comfortable sharing their Holly Springs zip code, but that probably does not account for all of the individuals who were there from Holly Springs. Last year, they were awarded $1,000. This year, they've asked for the same $1,000, and the grant committee is pleased to recommend that $1,000 funding level continue for this organization. Interact does have a very strong balance sheet. They get a lot of support from Wake County. We're one of the only municipalities outside of the county that supports them, but as we consistently see year over year, there are a number of victims that go there, and the grant committee thinks that this is a good use of our funds to help out this organization, knowing all the good work they do for some of those victims that need to use the facility. Next one is the Holly Springs Kiwanis Club. They use the funds for Kids Appreciation Day It's the annual free family fun focused event in Holly Springs. And the funds also help with a terrific kids program and terrific teachers recognition programs. They've requested $2,500. Last year, we awarded them $1,500, and the grant committee is recommending we maintain the same level of funding at $1,500 for the Holly Springs Key Club this year. One of the main drivers behind that ask is the Key Club is also a partner on our parade, so a lot of the entrance fees and float fees that come in from our annual Happy Holidays parade are directed to the Key Club, so they do have another source of revenue from the town outside of this grant program. And again, in order to make the dollars that we have go a long way, we weren't able to meet their full request, but still maintain the same level of funding as last year. The next one I'll touch on briefly is the Craft YMCA. You don't see them on this list, but they were our 12th applicant. They've requested a grant of $2,500. The YMCA also applied for a grant last year that was not funded. This year they did get more descriptive in what the money would be used for. But at the end of the day, the committee had reviewed their financials, and the balance sheet at the YMCA overall for the Triangle is very, very, very strong. That does not mean that the need that they have, which was for kids to attend Camp High Hopes, which is a program for at-risk youth, is not a very good use of the funds. But as we looked at the rankings from the staff committee and evaluated how best to spend this money, they did not rank very highly on the list, and therefore we're not able to recommend a grant for the Craft YMCA this year. That was the only organization that applied that we are not recommending a funding for.
Okay.
And that's consistent with the prior year. Launch Holly Springs, I think we're all familiar with this. Chartered by Rotary International, Launch is a program that supports women and minority-owned businesses and entrepreneurs to develop business plans, get small business loans, and help mentor business owners. They've applied for a grant of $750. Last year, they were awarded $500. Knowing all of the good things that this program does for small business owners in town, the grant committee is recommending funding in the amount of $1,000. A little bit higher than what they have asked for. We traditionally have not given out grants at the $250 increment level. Nothing says we can't. If anyone has different opinions, we can entertain that at the end and see if we want to stretch the dollars differently. But knowing the work that Launch has done and some of the goodwill they've made with the town, we've recommended the $1,000 funding level for them. Two more to go and I'm almost done here. South Wake Conservationists. This is a group that applied for the first time last year for $500. They were awarded $500. They used those funds for meat processing fees and coordination for a donation of harvested deer from hunters and farmers that go to needy families for a good source of protein. I've participated in a program like this in Pennsylvania. It's very unique and it's interesting, and it helps in another way, much like the food cupboard and the food shelf provides a good source of food and protein for folks that are at risk. This year, the group has some lofty goals. They're chartered by the North Carolina Wildlife Foundation, which is a 501c3, and they want to increase the number of food that they put out. The funds from last year went to over 1,000 meals for the number of deer they were able to get processed. This year they've requested $1,500, and the grant committee is pleased to recommend a funding level of $1,000 for South Wake Conservationists, which is an increase over last year, but not quite the full amount that they've requested. And the last one is Western Wake Crisis Ministry. I think over the last 6 months, we've heard more and more about this group and some of the good things that they do for folks that need financial assistance for utility bills, late rent, transportation costs, repair costs. Eligible families can receive up to $350 in assistance annually. That funding support usually goes to lower income folks that have past due bills or have disconnections of their utilities. And this year they've applied for funds to help increase the level of funding they provide within Holly Springs. I think to date they've been involved in town. This is the first time they've applied for a grant from us. They've asked for the max amount of $2,500. The grant committee is pleased to make a grant recommendation of $1,000 to Western Wake Crisis Ministry. And that rounds out our total of $15,000 for our budgeted line item. And the last comment I'll make, and Dr. Wolf, feel free to jump in here, is on just the overall evaluation of some of the groups that we have that consistently apply for some of these grants. I think the previous council had taken up a discussion around how we entertain different partners within our budget. So we have, like, the chamber, for example, is a budgeted expense the town has every year. But then additionally, things like the food cupboard, where they've been a longstanding beneficiary of this grant program. Should we revisit how we fund them? Is the funding level appropriate? Do we need to add them? Should we consider adding them to the budget as a consistent beneficiary, much like the chamber, based on the work and the level of importance of the work that they do in town? Or is there a discussion on increasing the dollar amount in this grant program to perhaps offer things like that for partners that are strategic in nature, to provide them at a higher funding level than what we currently do in order to balance all these needs out across the different groups that apply. So I think that's, an open discussion for the council, whether or not we solve that tonight. We could probably discuss in further detail at a workshop if that's the desire of the group. Happy to take any questions on the grant recommendations that we've proposed tonight. But that's where the grant committee has settled out for fiscal year 2020.
Dan, you and Aaron have done a great job. We've been through this 18 different times. And I've never seen one done that well, so I compliment both of you. Questions and comments of the information?
Mr. Mayor, let me just say that Mayor Pro Tem Berry, I'm incredibly thankful for his leadership here. This was not his first lap around the track with the grants committee, but it was mine. And so he was invaluable to me in helping me with the process and the background. When it came down to the recommendations, we were pretty close in lockstep. And I think the staff evaluations that we received were incredibly helpful. But still, Mayor Pro Tem Berry and I put an emphasis on meeting basic needs, and I think using the money to help residents meet their basic needs, whether that be food security or safe shelter, really took priority for us. And I will echo his comments on transitioning or having the discussion to transition some of these longtime recipients to recurring budgeted items. If you look at the Holly Springs Food Cupboard, they receive a max grant year after year, which is 1/6 of the total grant money, and they are completely deserving of it. If anybody in town deserves that money year after year, it's them, but it is 1/6 of our grant budget, and we have to kind of parse out the rest of the money year after year amongst a bunch of other very deserving organizations. So I'd be very willing to have that conversation again, and maybe in a workshop, and find a way that we can have council discuss moving some of these groups into a more budgeted stance after they meet certain criteria.
I think that's a great idea. Comments, other?
Bravo, this is a lot of work, and I really appreciate what you guys have done. Great job from staff and from the committee as well.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments?
Yeah, well laid out. Just a quick question. For some of the other PTSAs or any of the other organizations, do we feel that anybody was left out during this time of less communication? And is it just the fact that some of these other PTSAs don't necessarily understand what is available out there, or they just don't want to get some of this money?
So a couple things on that. In the past, we have awarded grants to other PTSAs. Certainly I think Holly Ridge Middle, Holly Grove Middle, one of the elementary schools has applied. This year, for whatever reason, we did not receive applications from them. We did, as far as my understanding is that we did publish the awareness of the grant application, and it was published online for the same amount of time as it had been in the past. So, we didn't go out and solicit them. I don't think we solicit any grants as a council committee or as a staff committee or as a town organization. We just publicize through our normal channels that the application period is open. Once people apply, then they get entered into the process. So, it's fair given everything that's going on. Did we miss something, or did someone miss an opportunity to get in here? You could probably debate that. Just knowing that we've awarded grants to other PTSAs in the past. And I think that the committee, as well as previous councils, have discussed at what level, much like the food cupboard conversation, but at what level should we continue to fund some of these PTSAs? They do help our kids within Holly Springs enormously with a number of different programs and needs. But if we get overrun with those requests, then it becomes very challenging to keep up with some of the other basic life needs that we've prioritized. I'll also add, last year there was some funds that we received from the North Carolina State Legislature that went to each of the schools in town.
Yeah.
So they received a pretty substantial amount of money through that program, through a state funded opportunity. Maybe there wasn't a need, maybe they missed the boat. I'm not sure what the answer is, but we have awarded more in the past there.
Okay. I'll add in there, Linda can correct me, but I think the application deadline for the grants this year was February 26th. So that was about 17 years ago, or at least it feels like that. So it was a little bit before the craziness really started and everybody's mind was preoccupied with COVID.
That is correct. The deadline was February 26th.
Right.
And we send out notification to everyone who has applied in the past, as well as putting it out on social media and on the web page and other announcements. So anyone who had asked to be contacted or who had given us contact information in the past was notified of the application.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Aaron, for keeping it in context of dog or cat years.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to award the grants to the organizations and in the amounts recommended by the grant committee with no changes.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Made seconded. Let's go. Dr. Aaron Wolf.
Aye.
Sean McGrath.
Aye.
Christine Kelly.
Aye.
Pete Nicholson.
Well done, everybody. Aye.
And Dan Barry.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And again, good job, all parties concerned. Thank you. You've done good. Agenda item 17, new business. COVID-19 business assistant and recovery update. And I think Anna Murphy, yes, she is. Anna Johnson is here.
Hi.
Is it Anna Murphy now?
It's not official yet, but yes, you can refer to me. It's not legally official.
I'm looking at my notes. Anyway, Anna is here from Economic Development.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to wait on Jeff, hopefully, for the slides. Okay, and then I'm going to see. We tested this the other day.
And you have control.
You got control.
Okay.
I think.
So hopefully it'll work. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
It's really good to see everyone, and it's been a really long time. So I hope everyone's doing well. Please let me know at any time if you're not able to see my screen or if you can't hear me. I am working off my iPad because my laptop is down right now. So just let me know if there's any problems.
Okay.
Messed it up already. Okay, thank you. Our reason for coming before you tonight is to take time to inform you about how the town and how the Economic Development Department are assisting our businesses by sharing local and state and federal resources that are available to them. At the end of the presentation, we will request your consideration and possible action of partnering financially with the Holly Springs Chamber through their Chamber Foundation Angel Fund. Can go to the next, Jeff.
Got it.
So how are we assisting our businesses? All of our business owners right now, I'm sure as many of you know, are being bombarded with information regarding federal and state loans. It can be difficult to sort through all of this information and to know what sources are credible. I know I've heard from some of them that they see them, but they're not sure which ones that they qualify for. And so from the feedback we're receiving, it is true that some of them are feeling overwhelmed. And so predicting this in the early stages and also now knowing this, we have been working to and have created a web page. You can find it on our website. So if you go to the COVID-19 page, on the left-hand side of the page, there's a business resources link. The link is provided here for you or for anyone who comes on and uses the PowerPoint. So our intent here is to put everything all in one place, hopefully to take the burden of research off of our businesses and give them their time back. We take the most helpful and best information, we sift through it, read and analyze every single day, and make sure that we put it organized on one page. And we definitely choose the ones that are most helpful. We're making sure to push these resources out as well. We didn't just put it up there and then hope that someone would find it. So we take all of the email addresses, and through the relationships that we've built over the years with our businesses, we have their personal email addresses. So we've pushed it out through that. And then also we've worked with Mark and Tamara and Cassie and communications to post about 1 to 2 times a week on social media accounts, the Facebook, the overall town Facebook site, and then we have an economic development Twitter page that we use. We're also reposting from our partners. We have really good partners, partners at the state and the county level, like the North Carolina Economic Development Association and our Wake County Economic Development Partners. And they are in conversation with the state and the local authorities, the county authorities every day. And so we're also getting information from them. So we'll sift through that information and also add that to our site. But also we'll reshare their posts on Twitter just to keep our businesses informed and up to date on everything that's going on. And then the next thing, the last thing is that we're partnering with the Holly Springs Chamber. Thus far, we have accepted to serve on the Holly Springs Chamber Foundation Angel Fund Advisory Board, which the Chamber so kindly asked us to be a part of. So on behalf of the town, I myself will sit on the advisory board as a voting member and a representative of the town. I'll dive a little bit deeper into these details in the next couple slides. I wanted to pause to see if there were any questions on that so far.
Questions so far? Hearing none.
Jeff, if you could go to the next slide. The Holly Springs Chamber Foundation Angel Fund was created to assist Holly Springs businesses financially due to the impact of COVID-19. The foundation holds a 501c3 status. The Chamber has stated that their goal is to reach $100,000 through outside contributions to provide grants to businesses in Holly Springs. So a few parameters for a business to receive this grant. They must be a brick and mortar business with less than 50 employees. All businesses, chamber and non-chamber businesses, are eligible to apply. There is an application that needs to be filled out for those who are interested. The grant amount for each business is up to a max of $3,000, and it's to be used for essential needs for rent, utilities, payroll. It is a grant, so the recipients are not required to pay back these funds once, but they are encouraged to contribute back to the Angel Fund once they regain stability. However, it's not a requirement that they do that. It's only encouraged. So this has been put in place, and actually it was sent out through the Chamber newsletter and on their website and all of their different ways of connections. It was It was 11 days ago, I believe. I think it was on the 11th. Over the past few days, or over the past few weeks, then the advisory board has reached out to several outside parties to seek contributions to the fund, and the town is one of them. I did hear this morning from the Chamber Foundation Board, and at this time they have received a total of $10,500 in contributions and have received 11 applications up to this point. Grants can be awarded starting May 1. And the Angel Fund grant is administered by a 7-member advisory board. There's 2 members of the Chamber Foundation Board. There's the executive director of the Chamber, a town representative, which will be myself. And then there are 3 businesses in town that are serving on the board. These are non-voting members, and that is because it gives them a chance to apply if they so wish to do so. Jeff, if you could go to the next one. So tonight we're proposing considerations associated with further assistance to our business community through this foundation. The major goal in the Chamber stepping in amidst all of the federal and state funds and options that are already out there is to help get money into the hands of businesses as quickly as possible. The average time to receive approval for the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan is now said to be 18 to 21 days. And then once you're approved, it takes roughly 5 days to get the check or the money in hand. Up to this point as well, the federal Paycheck Protection Program has actually run out of funds as of last week, and 1 in 5 applicants are being reported to have received the funds up to this point. So through the Chamber Foundation Angel Fund, the Chamber will be able to fill the gap and provide grants starting as early as May 1. As a voting member on the advisory board, I will be responsible for reading and reviewing and voting on the applications submitted to inform what grants will be awarded. We would like to receive input from the council on a possible contribution towards this Angel Fund. The Economic Development Department, we were able to identify $15,000 through efficiencies and budgeted expenditures that now cannot be spent this fiscal year due to COVID-19. This $15,000 could assist at least 5 businesses. It is possible that certain applicants would ask for less than the max of $3,000, much like we saw just before this. And so in that way, we could potentially help more than 5 businesses. So we are proposing contribution in the form of a challenge pledge. To explain this a little bit, a challenge pledge is a dollar-for-dollar contribution match. We propose to match up to a max of $15,000 of any private contributions made to the Chamber Foundation's Angel Fund after tonight and after the feedback from the council. So I'll pause here for any questions and for feedback.
I had a quick comment, Anna, please.
Yes.
I have checked with Shantae on this subject, and it looks very good to me as far as a concept. I've also talked to Apex and to Fuquay, and while this is a very, very good idea, I know that their participation might even be in excess of ours. So as a comment, I think this is a very important thing for us to do, and $15,000 is legal and all that good stuff, saying, I know some of our small businesses have heard about this through the Angel Fund as a concept, not specifics, but they are very excited and very thankful about the concept, okay? So that's my story. Other comments? Other comments?
I'll start, Mr. Mayor. I had an opportunity last week to catch up with Justin Sellers from the Chamber and go through some of what he's hearing on the street regarding the need that's out there from the businesses. And I think what was, I guess it wasn't surprising to me, but was eye-opening is that there is a lot of need out there with a number of our small businesses. And, you know, these folks could be 1 month away from closing their doors, and some sort of contribution from this town funds that we submit or any of the other funds that the Angel Fund raises could be the difference between that business making it 1 more month or not. We have a downtown that we've invested a significant amount of money in from a public perspective. In order to keep that momentum going, a lot of those businesses that have started down there, people have tied up life savings and opening brick and mortar stores and starting new concepts and things like that. So I think it's important that as a town, we kind of double down on our investment in downtown and do what we can do to help out here. I've, from my own personal decision process, I've put some trust into the town manager related to the financial health of the town, and that this would not be detrimental to our overall financial position, because we as an organization are like any other business and have to make sure we can cover our payroll and cover the expenses that we're going to run into. And fortunately, we're in a position to be in decent financial health at this point, and this contribution would not be detrimental. So I think it's a good thing to support our small businesses. We can always come back and reevaluate once we cross fiscal years. The diligence, that I was able to perform last week, both with Randy and with Justin, I think helped me get over that hurdle of when's the right time to do this. I think there's a need now. And if we miss the boat on that, then, there could be some businesses that are negatively impacted. So happy to see this, and hopefully we'll be able to support.
Well said, Dan. Other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I reached out to some local small business owners here the past week as well, those who are not actually chamber members, and I was very happy to hear that the chamber was being proactive in reaching out to them and letting them know about the availability of the Angel Fund as well, because the chamber does great work in our community, but unfortunately not all of our small businesses are members, so I wanted to make sure that these resources would be available to them too, and it looks like they're going a long way proactively towards doing that. And then I asked them, would if $1,000 to $3,000 grant, would that help? Would it make an appreciable difference? And the feedback I got echoed what you said, that yes, it would, and that they need it sooner rather than later. So I'm definitely in agreement with Mayor Pro Tem Berry and yourself to support this $15,000 grant.
Again, well said. Other comments?
I just wanted to say, I like that it's a challenge pledge, so that might motivate other folks, other organizations to step up to invest in our town. So I appreciate that. I think that's great. And likewise, I've been talking to small businesses, and I understand the need for this and support.
Again, well said. Another one. Any more?
I had a nice conversation with Shantae as well last week. Certainly appreciate that. I do also appreciate everything that economic development is doing. That's great work. Putting together all the resources to
Small businesses trying to figure out.
Your audio is, can you try that again, Sean?
Still there? Coming back?
Something happened to the audio. Go ahead, try again.
Doesn't surprise me. It's my spectrum. Sorry.
Yeah, that's better.
Say it again, because I know it's important.
Yeah, no, I'll start back over again. I had a nice conversation with Shantae last week that definitely helped to discuss some of these things. The other part is I certainly appreciate everything economic development is doing with this, not only putting together all the resources for our small businesses in a single place. That's an awesome resource, but great work trying to find internal funds that may not be able to be expended due to what we're doing. Certainly helps to do that rather than, this having the appearance of being a potentially unequitable, taxpayer burden that we're adding to an out of cycle budget request. So I think that's great. And I hope that as we continue to move forward, that we can lead getting out of this scenario and helping our businesses that way as well, because we need to find a way to continue to do things smartly. But also to help the businesses. And I'm glad that Wake County chose to get rid of some of the disproportionate effect that was going on to some of our businesses with the latest order.
Again, well said. Other comments?
Yeah, I'm really happy to see this come to fruition so quickly. I appreciate that the funds are coming from economic development and are being used in this way. It's perfect use for it at this time. And I do hope the challenge aspect of it does motivate anybody, I guess it could be individuals or businesses or so forth, to contribute to this, so that our small businesses, which I really do think our town really supports, and it's such a key part of our town and community, can come out of this and continue to serve our residents. Very happy about this.
Again, well said, Pete. Anything else? If not, I just want to make a quick comment. There's also an awful lot of discussion and, shall we say, back and forth talk with the county and with the state about other ways that we can help small businesses, because I must have gotten, I'm sure you have too, a myriad of emails from small businesses saying, what can you do to help me, type of thing, as a generalism. And this is one great way to do it, but there are going to be other ways, I hope, in the near future, and maybe by April 30th, we'll know more. So we're working on it. Excuse me, working on it. Any other comments? Hearing none. Motion, please. Somebody tackle.
I'll make a motion to approve a $15,000 challenge grant contribution to the Chamber Foundation for COVID-19 related economic recovery for small businesses within the Holly Springs town limit.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor. Well, let's go again one more time. Dan Barry.
Aye.
Pete Nelson.
Aye.
Christine Kelly.
Aye.
Sean McGrath.
Aye.
Dr. Aaron Wolf.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and once again, thank you. Next item is other business, and I just got a couple things. One, I gotta say crosswalk safety because I do it every time. And I think we're making progress, but it's something we want to keep on everybody's mind. Perhaps more importantly, an update on COVID-19 as it relates to Wake County. The number of cases as of this morning was 611. The deaths, unfortunately, all deaths are bad news, was 8, or 1.3% of the confirmed case, confirmed cases. Facts, not fear. And I hope personally that we can work on and are continuing to work on getting ourselves back to work at the appropriate time. And I do need a haircut badly. I'll leave you with that thought. Other comments from the board?
Let me echo what Councilman McGrath said in thanking Anna and Irena for their work with the small businesses, especially passing on these resources and helping to guide our small businesses. Navigating the emergency loans and the PPP program is arduous. It's something that we went through just a couple of weeks ago. The good news is, just this evening, it looks like the Senate passed another $310 billion to fund the PPP and another $60 billion for the emergency loan program. It's my understanding that our small businesses can apply for one or the other, but cannot receive funds from both. And that's part of the confusion, is which one is best suited for which business. But once this goes live, our businesses should reach out, because these funds are going to go quickly. It's a smaller amount than was originally budgeted toward the program, and that went quickly as well. The other thing I'll say, just anecdotally from our experience for our small businesses and reported across the country, small businesses have had greater success in getting these loans when they're going through their smaller and especially their community banks, as opposed to the big four banks. So if you have a relationship with those smaller community banks that are available to receive these PPP funds, start that relationship now, renew that relationship now, because you have a better chance of getting these funds if you go through them.
Who else?
Hi, I wanted to say that I see a lot of staff activity around town. They're working really hard, and I appreciate all that they're doing and staying safe. So thank you to the town staff, because they're essential, and they're doing some great service for our community. I also want to shout out to all the volunteers that have been coming out to help deliver meals and other things that they're doing to help serve our senior citizens around town, baking cookies, helping folks get meals out. It is a moment where our community can shine and all get together. So I'm proud to be somebody from Holly Springs. My last comment is I wanted to say that tomorrow is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which I think is cool. I'm going to spend some time taking out weeds in my yard and planting new plants. And I think that anybody who was born at the first Earth Day is really a lucky person. If I
Who
only
might that be?
like that.
Lady? Do you know that person?
If I only knew somebody that on a Zoom meeting that we can, highlight, I think that's really cool to have been born on the first Earth Day. Who could that be?
I don't
All
know.
the books behind him are actually Silent Spring. It's just the same copy over and over again.
Happy birthday, Pete.
Happy birthday, Pete.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pete, welcome to the Oldest Dirt Club.
Yep, Earth Club.
A little more salt than pepper these days.
Yeah, easy on those comments.
Who else?
I will say the same thing. It's great that people are continuing to do great things around the community. And I did listen into the state's select committee on COVID today on the COVID response, and they are proposing legislation for $75 million of aid towards our small businesses. So that was again an interesting conversation to hear. I guess initially they were looking at 25 million, but that number has gone up to 75 million. So that's a good number between them and what Wake County put out there, $8.8 million. There's additional resources, so it's good to hear there's money in the North Carolina coffers right now to help out some of the folks as we go through measures that are out there. But again, like I mentioned briefly previous, I think our role in this now is to help lead ourselves out of this and to find a coherent way to lead ourselves back to I won't call it normal, but and I won't call it a new normal because too many people using those for agendas, but the way we can get back to life as we may know it.
Yeah, and we're working on that too, as you well know, Sean. Who else?
So I give a shout out to Public Works for continuing to pick up the yard debris from the explosion of gardeners and landscapers in town. Holly Springs has never looked so good. Even my fire hydrant was repainted today. So I'm glad to see that just remarkable work that they've been doing through all of this.
How true you speak. Anybody else? Right? Seeing none. Let's go to our hardworking town manager, Randy Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And thanks, council members. Yeah, just to piggyback on a couple of those comments, I'm really continue to be really proud of the organization and the way people are responding in our current situation. I would probably say there's a lot of people working real hard, but there are two groups in particular, and economic development, which you've just mentioned, and the work that they're doing with our small businesses and helping to connect them. And the other area is within Public Works, our yard waste collection crew. They have been working extra hours to pick up all the yard waste debris that's been out there on the streets. Really proud of that crew and Lindsey McNeil and his leadership there, because it's feeling like a fall leaf season almost for many of our yard waste Public Works members. A couple other quick items. One, I just want you to know, you may already know this, but the North Carolina legislature is not yet in session. They come back in later this month, but there are some working groups that are occurring and among the legislators, and one of them is around what's called the Continuity of State Government Working Group. And I just want you to know that I think we all hope and that we don't have too much longer virtual meeting requirements given the current situation. But I do want you to know that this working group is looking at the open meetings laws and in the nature or the context of virtual meetings. They're also looking at quasi-judicial planning and zoning type meetings. And I think, as you all know, those particular types of items we cannot have on the agenda right now in a virtual environment. So there is some groups who are looking at that, this one in particular, and there may be some more information that comes back to that, but I just wanted you to make you aware that is occurring. Another item, we just learned a little bit today, so very preliminary information, but we understand from the North Carolina Department of Transportation that I think it's probably no surprise with how few people are driving on the roads right now, that they've taken a significant hit on the gas tax, the state gas tax that funds much of our roadway improvements. And so the NCDOT is projecting about a $300 million shortfall. They did announce that they are delaying quite a number of projects across the state. We did do a preliminary look at the list today. We're still reviewing it, but right now we're not aware of any state projects in our particular town limits at this time that are impacted, but we're still looking at that and to confirm and make sure. But I did want you to be at least a heads up that some of the posture there with the state, given the reduced state gas tax revenue. And the last item, you heard me at our last council meeting that our residents are doing a fantastic job on this 2020 census. And we continue to lead the pack of all Wake County municipalities in terms of the response rate to the 2020 census. Just for those who are statisticians and keeping track of this, the Holly Springs, Holly Springs rate is 69.1%. The next nearest town is the town of Cary, and they're just right at, I think, 63% or 63.1. So our residents, again, are doing just a really great job with with completing the 2020 census surveys. If you've not completed yours, I would encourage you to do it. You can go to 2020census.gov, and if you feel like you have either not received your information or may have misplaced it, and you can learn how to make sure that you're counted here in Holly Springs. So congratulations to Holly Springs residents. And again, to Gina Clapp and Cassie Hack for their work and leadership helping to get the word out on this. So that's it, Mayor and members of council.
All right, thanks, sir. Just one closing comment. I want to say thank you to not only the town staff, but also to the town council for a very efficient work on getting this meeting. And I appreciate it. I think it was well done. I appreciate everybody's hard work. And at this point in time, I'll ask the counselor if there's a closed session.
No, sir.
The answer is no, sir. May I hear a motion to adjourn from someone?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We're just going to go all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, all. Safe trip.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Most of you are already there.